44. The Earth's normal CO2 280 parts per million air molecules in 1850 allowed rainfall that kept lakes and rivers full, and well-nurtured natural cover and human agriculture. The explosion of industrial, energy, and motor vehicle CO2 burning have boomed this greenhouse gas to 420 parts per million, which blocks enough heat dissipation to the high stratosphere to raise average Earth temperature 1.5 degrees centigrade, 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit. The last 30-year rise from 390 parts per million has entirely caused Earth's fastest escalation of heat and drought. The half of the continental planet's drier areas have become absolutely parched. Rain clouds bake dry before they can precipitate, and more sunny heat dries topsoil to plant death. The world's normally wetter half, however, gets more and more rain. Hotter air can hold more moisture, often enormously increased by sky rivers flowing in from heated, enormously evaporating oceans. My speeches report much dry world desertification, bad enough for forests and other greenery, but catastrophic to human communities and farms. Growing season rain can altogether vanish, even livestock doomed without grass, hay, or nearby water holes. Thousands of communities near low or totally gone lakes and rivers shout for water and food imports, and when no longer helped, the people head out, homeless, to walk hundreds or thousands of miles in search of survival. 2/3 of humanity is short of water today. 700 million will flee their drought-stricken homes in the next 5 years. Most of luckier, wetter humanity is angrily inhospitable towards the desperate, not willing invaders, electing leaders everywhere who promise the toughest refugee blockades. Drought destroys economies, drastically worsening wars. Now the Earth's wetter half has major problems too. Heavier rain locations tend to wildly fluctuate between droughts that bake Earth to a top dirt shell that is close to waterproof, then massive floods that tear out weak, unhealthy crops, run off hard Earth to destroy human habitations, and massively landslide down high rock and earth. I propose your international treaty and national projects to deliver floods to deserts. Put Professor Tukor in charge of Sky River collection. Until this man's long-researched genius, the future of ocean desalination was only hopelessly expensive ocean water salt filtration, osmosis, or boiling, vast, complex operations producing slimy, solute mountains, another expensive mess. So Tukor, while burning his bare feet on a sun-baked beach, visualized vast, steamy clouds of fresh water exploding, evaporating off oceans, these days reaching coral-killing 105 degrees, their sun-slashed surfaces far hotter yet. Whether mirage or brainstorm, he saw mile-wide complexes of giant, thin metal or plastic sheets offshore, condensing trillions of gallons of steam to running water, 100% fresh and clean, having left all solutes swimming below. 20 research years later, he drafts plans for a half-dozen such complexes watering each great coastal city. 40% of humanity lives coastal. I'll be contacting him soon for the details of panel support. Obviously, they are shaped to drain the water into shore-bound pipes. And wouldn't he be the technical pro to design worldwide ocean evaporation to freshwater complexes, initiating delivery to everywhere needed? The uphill direction requires power, propellers in pipes, solar electricity. And wouldn't a mechanical mind like his know what to do with that same ocean steam become sky rivers, dumping 20-inch inland floods, raging rivers for weeks? Giant riverbank pipes below flood stage, raging cataract power driving their water flow a mile or more until mechanized human power pumped world rescue to every lake, forest, farm, and municipal water treatment center. While two-core ocean sheet water would be squeaky clean, river flood water would need serious dirt filtration. In other speeches, I discuss roof rain, street gutter, and concrete highway ditch hurricane or other floodwater collection and delivery. Install big air dehumidifiers in every home to give that family 5 gallons of water every day their municipal reservoir was plunging down to cracked mud, probably keeping that lake in existence until refill deliveries picked up from any of the several Sky River sources I've outlined. No, forget the whole thing. Too expensive. Without your campaign, our taxes will never be diverted from corruption and war. So since we're gonna die of hunger and thirst, we might as well get bombed out of our misery first, right? Wrong. Swords into plowshares, baby. Get cracking. Court cases and treaty negotiations and government lobbying so slam dunk obvious, even an amateur no-account like me could flog and win 'em. Only thing, $1 billion gotta push 'em. 12% activists convert the rest. Research proven. Each one of us recruit 2 more. 33 doublings to 8 billion. Piece of cake. This February of 2023, apocalyptic floods inundate California's coastal half for a 3rd straight week. Years of drought in the area temporarily reversed. Endangered forests got a temporary new lease on life. Reservoirs 90% full before global warming. This January down to 35%. Added another 7%. But L.A., Lifelines, Lakes Mead, and Powell were too far inland to benefit. Had our piping floods to deserts and 2-core sheet desalinization been in place, L.A.'s lakes would never again empty, as they are slated to within 3 years. 80% of America's winter vegetables are grown in increasingly drought-devastated areas of California beyond the reach of Sky River floods and about to be cut off of irrigation from the dying Colorado River and the lakes it used to fill. No problem. 40 million greater LA folks can always move to Portland, right? What have we all learned since our 15-year struggle from cribs to colleges? Since shepherding and teaching or just being children to grow past 1,000 dangers? If we truly try, keep trying with love all together and never give up, then our wonderful achievements, defeat of every danger we flat outsmart, outmaneuver, happen. Victories that we once barely dared to imagine, to breathlessly hope for. 1,000 times more than religion's reward of saintly spirits floated far above and past our dead bodies. Heaven is your life's purpose now, your duty, your job here on earth while you are alive. First, you must take on, defeat, and destroy evil's every clever tool. No matter how many millennia the damn perpetrators institutionalized their scorched earth powers. Only then will your fight win love and life for all humanity possible, just to save your life, your happiness, your future, and your children's fine world of evermore hope that we all live for. So go! His story's ultimate mutant triumph, XYY dictatorship, hell on earth, human agony unto extinction, seems to be Syria, Hafez Assad. Only you can heal such evil, which could torture, then kill you soon if you do not do your best to make world love political law. Like up to half of violent criminals, mass killer leaders are often genetically driven to slaughter, especially in a world system handing them every financial, legal, and military weapon. For 12 years, Hafez Assad has ordered barrels full of TNT and nails to be dropped from helicopters and exploded upon every possible civilian family in provinces still hiding remnants of rebels against his iron rule. Soon he'll kill 1 million, 98% non-combatants. Millions have fled Syria. More millions remain homeless, wounded, disabled, thirsty, starving, jobless, and endlessly grieving for murdered masses of loved ones and friends. This winter, a monstrous earthquake crushed 20,000 beneath tall concrete buildings deliberately built by lawless profiteers to collapse like sand castles in a historic earthquake zone after a few good shakes. To punish the few remaining resistors and their entire province, Assad sent virtually no water, food, tents, or medical care to anyone. A tiny fraction of foreign aid needed trickles across a few border entries. Even your international ultimate new world of love, care, and treaty law might take decades to dislodge the relatively young strongman Assad. One of last century's worst slaughters since World War II, 900,000 machete murders in Rwanda, was also accomplished by weaponizing items knowingly, legally sold to mass murder-bent leaders and combatants. You must demand that renewal of proven genocide be made impossible by outlawing the sale of giant amounts of weapons for genocide. Machetes to African warriors, and TNT, nails, and barrels to civilian slaughtering governments. You're familiar enough with my other package of can't murder billions without these financial and military weapons, old and new laws. The goal of our new international and national laws treaty is to directly reverse, undo corrupt governments' ever-accelerating chain reaction to fast extinction of never civilized, only tormented humanity. Review the bidding. Unlimited military power of hyper-aggressives killed or enslaved the first farmers, then 15 following empires. Finally, nukes are poised to freeze all life, also doomed by excess CO2 rapidly drying steady rain, lakes, and farms, soon ending economic power to prepare and buy water and food if available. Companies, ever more bribing politicians, force the scorched earth CO2 rocket, private to public weaponeering, and zero rescue and reform governments to finish 100% extinction, including their pointless temporary money, honey. Well, until you recruit 1 billion, only Crazy Steve expects you to run the entire chain reaction exactly backwards to seize your own family's heaven, not hell on earth. Impossible until we start loving and caring for tortured, destitute Syrians at least as much as your fancy-ass neighborhood country club. Because every ruined nation 12,000 miles away is coming for you, babies. Do you really think that world drought, war, and depression will spare your fat little shining city on a hill? Was my 15-hour undo his story description too much rambling? Tighten it up, Steve. Laser in, fat mouth. Let's negotiate border defenses only, swords into terminal emergency plowshares ourselves, while outlawing dirty private political money so we'll free elect, not crazy aggressive, only clean, loving leaders to sign and ratify that treaty. Include enough regenerative farming, new water supply, tree and farm irrigation, CO2 emissions slash, and CO2 scrub out factory building to save the human and your personal families. Obviously, with every trillion yanked from world invasion armies and arsenals. End his story for our story. New and old enforced law must return our human love, peace, and democracy that our never naturally passive, weak, or subservient women once, before his wars, nailed down. Glorious queens in charge, with loving, bearded hunters in full, mature, ethical support for 2 million years, until one killer drought set a couple of XYY savages onto a single farm to launch their 10,000-year rocket to hell and doom. Somebody's got to lower that monster missile exactly back down on the pad, then pulverize every warhead on world TV. Who dat? Let's act fast and together to bring every tyrant to heel. Build earthquake and flood-proof housing. Deliver universal medical care and otherwise direct every possible government dollar ripped out of your wallet to save, not destroy us. Include 100% of our rescue and justice in the single treaty that I envision, design, and desperately promote. Now, you must redesign my beginning with a world of impassioned and expert guidance. Flesh it out, negotiate it with every world citizen and leader you can contact. Together we'll economically batter the corrupt holdouts into self-survival support. Grab political offices the world over yourselves. Ratify, fund, and continue the treaty's massive rescue projects, all in the tiny number of years before water, food, economies, peace, sanity, and nuclear control vanish into anarchy, permanently powerless to achieve a thing except every human being suffering and death. Every time I try to wrap it up, another corruption bombshell explodes. You remember my story about how the U.S. Federalist Society got $450 million in dark money to pick and promote federal and Supreme Court candidates, clearly planning to decide for fat cats against the rest of us for their entire stinking careers. Today, CNN reported that one of the president's men collected vast donations from corporations for the unvarying quid pro quo. His personal or network recruiting, promoting, and finagling confirmation by the equally corrupt Senate of also corrupted federal judge and Supreme Court candidates, obviously promising privately. Just not at their lying confirmation hearings, of course. Slavish careers of judicial decisions ravaging us powerless public rabble in favor of environment and public health wrecking, just to hammer down and beef up the bottom lines of the corporation's dirty politics players. 100% working for their fat cat, public thieving and abusing bosses to keep damaging and dooming us 99% little kittens 100 ways above, beyond, and way below their valid American rights and opportunities to just make honest money, selling us quality, non-lethal, safe stuff we need that helps, not hurts us. Then, driving history's hugest number of single presidential term new judges, pre-nomination to final confirmation wasn't enough for the American president's man, funneling all this bribing, profiteering dough through his unregulated, hilariously named non-profit company. So in 1 year, he poured $43 million of these anything but generous and benevolent donations to nonprofits into his new company's full profit that he also controlled. CNN asked his personal business representative what they did or sold to earn such payments. He declined to answer a single question about that $43 million suddenly headed from his nonprofits to his pockets, baby. Law-breaking suddenly became the investigative issue, but only concerning inappropriate diversion of donations from nonprofits to a third party, in fact, identical to the bullshitting nonprofit middleman. But bribery of public government for toxic private benefit, so often made painstakingly, if wrongly legal, appears presently of little concern to anyone on earth except for two people, even when such stench soon promises to murder the other 8 billion. Well, they finally messed with the wrong two people. Who dat? Me and you. You had to hear this story for the same reason I've hammered you for 15 hours. Ever more proof that you gotta stop private jackals, public government carcass feasting just before its universal fatality. Outlaw another penny of any gift directed at government, voters, or any liars claiming nonprofit charitable purpose, really out to selfishly influence legislative, executive, regulatory, or judicial, local, state, or federal government branches. Forbid one more nickel spent for public propaganda promoting any government decision without equal time and money given to the opposite point of view. Exactly the Democratic design of public campaign finance that must replace every single private, partisan, corrupt, power-mongering, dictatorial dollar. Beyond our human rights and survival revolution success, try not to obsess that hundreds of these corrupt judges won't retire or die for decades. Just make every branch of government watch them like hawks for evidence of corporate manipulation and personal enrichment that I guarantee you many always intended and will repeatedly attempt both inside and outside of their court decisions. Stop the money, honey. I've always been fascinated and alarmed by the evidence that the universe runs, birth to death, as an automatic chain reaction. While this could be largely true, don't you dare fully believe it without exceptions, because then all you wimps will only keep saying what I've always heard from every damn body. So why even try to change our crappy preordained fate anyway? Well, I survived out of my dying world of addiction. 90% of drug addicts die 26 years early. And the other 10%, we heal ourselves, then love and laugh till we're 80. Most of the million technological planetary civilizations didn't outlive their first radios by 200 years. But a handful designed millions more years of peace, health, and love. A couple of those sagacious heavens buzzed Earth with a myriad flying saucers, reported a good 1,000 newspapers. Mostly during our first decade of flashing into their deep space hundreds of 1 to 50 megaton hydrogen test bomb explosions. All you need to know was taught by the UFOs witnessed shutting down silo launch controls and hovering over the White House also masterminding doomsday. We learned, so must you. Very fast, almost universal technological planet suicide is the chain reaction I've described throughout my little opus. But don't I work equally hard to organize, legalize, and motivate our speedy, private into public citizens' last-second reform and rescue by a certain educated, galvanized, chain-reacting, multiplying person? Wait for it. Who dat? No such things as free will and good citizen power. Horseshit. Powerless against tragic fate. My ass. The ability to replace deadly non-government with old and new law, love, and care is absolutely proven possible by 100 democratic revolutions, even if many stupidly wind up in white-hot danger of reversal. Such Jeffersonian self-government reform and life preservation was logically evidenced by our alien visitors, not to mention loudly, persuasively, urgently pushed by my speeches, and totally slam dunked by your years of impossible, without your endless guts and love, family care, that you're about to explode public, nation, and worldwide. Just bring your same character and active love. We got this. Start simple. Street and roof water drainage for giant worldwide use could keep billions alive living under a desert's dearth of annual rainfall. Just demand this of 1,000 state and national governments, 1 million entrepreneurs, and 1 billion customers demanding good government subsidies for saving their bacon, not to mention our lives. Did you know that American education spends $500 a year for each student's core class? but shrunk civics money to 50 cents. No wonder we buy stolen election lies that 50 courts disproved. Speaking of chain reactions, one recent researcher's article was entitled, "The Next Pandemic is a Forest Clearing Away." Forest destruction by global warming or deliberate human cutting and burning not only jacks CO2 to desertify most of Earth, but also encroaches billions of people into thousands of animals' habitats, all teeming with viruses, easy enough on them, but 50 yards and a couple of mutations away from another 10 human pandemics that could each dwarf COVID's 15 million body count. Said skyrocketing new human virus murder from rushing into forests that we kill. Yet another monstrous reason that you're determined to negotiate and get ratified and enforced that World Treaty tenet to stop our chopping and burning, to irrigate and plant more forests. You'll need to add another provision that halts all Wuhan market type import of easily infected jungle delicacies, and a tenet that stops any laboratory from screwing with deadly viruses until critically ill researchers are rushed to outside hospitals, exactly as happened in China, causing our FBI to assess with moderate confidence that COVID-19's origin was even more likely from the Wuhan virology lab as from foreign jungle bat meat from the market. That American-funded lab was indeed redesigning viruses to be even more deadly. Their ridiculous excuse being design of some defense against potential germ warfare. Let's just not mention accidental lab leaks spreading terrible diseases known to have happened many times in many places. Like nuclear weapons, biological arsenals are against World Treaty laws. Of course, in both cases, way too weak, disrespected, and abrogated to get the peace law job done. Why? Because you've never made peace, i.e. disarmament law, your job. Always left it to governments bribed to kill you, dummy. My book is mostly about chain reaction extinction, quite certain from laissez-faire or leave-alone government corruption contentedly tolerated by billions of family heroes, just utter abdicators of all public responsibility for self-government other than voting for one or a few of 100% slate of system-enabled thieves. Just leave the driving to our users and killers for a last few miles. How easy is that, we imagine, deaf and blind to our unimagined near-future horror and misery of family dying. Am I the one of 8 billion spouting the nasty truth? Better make it 2. You've heard what I've said. Now what do you say? What we say, we honestly believe, because we're not the liars running Earth, scheming, self-advantageous, others-destroying theft, abuse, and murder. So, from loving, kind people, belief impels action to rescue all. With courage and determination, plus energy and strategy, we help ourselves and others. Start by saying, no, my loved ones and I will not suffer and die when we could prevent both with our fight, as far and wide as necessary. For a new world of forests, water, food, CO2 control, and lawful swords into plowshares to keep our boys and girls glowing and growing. Just through school, before we dare to dream and work for long, loving, entire lives. Yes, we can inspire, lead, and follow our danger inheriting brood, all getting to work securing the whole damn century. Before you do and keep doing, say this: I am human survival and happiness. The very opposite of every high, mighty, blind, corrupt boss, only polluting our world with fleeting, pointless power before genocide and suicide. I must and will stop them for all of our lives. Private to public action of 1 billion recruited by merely one to start, which must be me, no other delegated or responsible today. For 10,000 years, every private punted to the damn dirty generals, the essence of our mortal danger now. So what is our utterly scary but glorious, loving, caring, thinking, acting only chance? I take charge! And doesn't that promise to be tons more fun than passively hiding from death, coming decades sooner to every heartless, stupid loser that invites hell on earth for everybody, including our own dear families that we refuse to love by protecting? When we all could instead strive for long, heavenly life, absolutely, definitely possible if worked for. So let's do our human and humanity duty, every effort a most hopeful pleasure. Now I get to end this talk with just what I beg of you: love. What kind of love? The kind that reminds and spurs a certain all talk and no action blowhard who hasn't besieged a single foundation, publisher, or courtroom to put up or shut up. Steve, where and when's gonna be your get started, never quit, get it done, active love?